Welcome back to Soft Light Theory, a place where science speaks softly and healing begins with a breath. This is part of our series, Emotional Healing and Neuroscience, Gentle Ways to Rewire Your Mind, where we explore the deep connections between your thoughts, your body, and the patterns that shape your inner world. If your mind is always racing toward tomorrow, if you find yourself thinking, what if this goes wrong? What if that happens? If worry about the future steals your peace in the present moment, you're not alone, and you're not broken. Tonight, we're exploring one of the most exhausting patterns of anxiety, constant worry about the future. Your mind spins scenarios that haven't happened. It rehearses conversations that may never occur. It prepares for disasters that exist only in imagination. And while you're busy worrying about what might happen, you're missing what is happening, this moment, this breath, this life unfolding right now. It feels impossible to stop. The worry loop feels endless. But here's the truth. Your brain isn't broken. It's trying to protect you. And once you understand why it does this, you can begin to gently interrupt the cycle. In this video, we'll uncover the neuroscience behind future-focused worry, explore why your mind believes thinking about tomorrow will keep you safe, and discover gentle, science-based ways to break the anxiety loop and return to the present moment. Before we begin, please subscribe to Soft Light Theory. If this video brings you understanding or peace, like it, so others trapped in worry can find this path back to now. Where in the world are you listening from? Drop your location and local time in the comments. This space is global, gentle, and yours. Now, let's begin. With a breath, with curiosity, with the science of how to gently free yourself from constant worry about the future, and how to finally, peacefully, live in the only moment that truly exists, this one. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out even slower. Let's walk together through the anxiety loop and discover the way out.
Chapter 1. The Mind That Lives in a Future That Hasn't Arrived. While the present moment unfolds around you, your mind is elsewhere, predicting, planning, preparing for storms that may never come. Tonight, we begin in this space between now and tomorrow, where worry makes its home. Right now, as you read these words, where is your mind? Is it here, in this moment, noticing the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet around you? Or has it already traveled forward to tomorrow's meeting, next week's challenge, the conversation you need to have, the decision you haven't made yet? Most likely, it's there, in the future, in the space that doesn't exist yet, but somehow consumes more of your attention than the present ever does. This is not unusual. This is not weakness. This is the default mode of a mind shaped by evolution, trained by experience, and wired to anticipate what comes next. But it's also the source of so much suffering, because while your mind lives tomorrow, your life is happening today, and you're missing it. Let's start by understanding what worry actually is. Worry is not random. It's not meaningless mental noise. It's a cognitive process, a form of thinking that your brain uses to prepare for potential threats. When you worry, you're essentially running simulations. Your mind creates scenarios about the future and asks, what could go wrong? How can I prevent it? What should I do if it happens? This is problem-solving behavior, and in many situations, it's useful. It helps you plan. It motivates you to prepare. It allows you to anticipate challenges and take action before they arrive. But there's a line, a point where helpful preparation becomes exhausting rumination, where planning for the future becomes living in the future, where worry stops being a tool and becomes a trap. And for many people, that line has been crossed long ago. Your brain has a remarkable ability to imagine what hasn't happened yet.
It can project forward in time. It can create detailed mental images of future events. It can simulate conversations, outcomes, disasters, successes, all within the private theater of your mind. This ability is uniquely human. No other animal can do this with the complexity and detail that you can, and it's one of the reasons humans have survived and thrived. Your ancestors who could anticipate danger, who could think ahead to winter and store food, who could predict the movements of predators, who could plan for scarcity, they survived, and you carry their genes. But here's the problem. Your brain cannot distinguish between imagining a threat and experiencing a threat. When you worry about something bad happening in the future, your body responds as if it's happening now. Your heart rate increases, stress hormones release, your muscles tense, your nervous system activates. All of this because of a thought, a mental simulation of something that hasn't occurred and might never occur. This is the cruel paradox of worry. It's designed to help you prepare for danger, but it creates the very stress response it's trying to prevent. Let's talk about why your mind defaults to the future instead of staying in the present. The present moment is relatively easy for your brain to process. It's simple, direct. What you see, hear, feel right now, that's manageable information. But the present moment doesn't require much cognitive work. There's nothing to figure out, nothing to solve, nothing to prepare for. And your brain, especially if it's been trained by anxiety, doesn't trust simplicity. It doesn't trust that everything is okay right now, in this moment. So it searches, it scans forward, it asks, what's next? What could go wrong? What do I need to prepare for? This is called anticipatory processing, and it's one of the core features of anxiety. Your brain believes that by thinking about the future, it can control the future. That by worrying about what might happen, it can prevent bad things from happening. But control is an illusion. The future is uncertain by nature, and no amount of mental rehearsal can eliminate that uncertainty. Yet your mind keeps trying, keeps worrying, keeps living tomorrow, because it feels safer than accepting the unknown. Here's what happens when your mind lives in the future. You miss the present. The only moment that actually exists, this one, right now, passes by unnoticed. You eat without tasting. You listen without hearing. You move through your day like a ghost, physically here, but mentally elsewhere. You exhaust yourself. Constant future-focused thinking is mentally and emotionally draining. It keeps your nervous system activated. It prevents rest. It creates a state of perpetual preparation for battles that never come. You reinforce the pattern. Every time you worry about the future, you strengthen the neural pathways that support worry. Your brain learns, this is what we do, this is how we stay safe, and the pattern becomes more automatic, more difficult to interrupt. You lose trust in yourself. When you're always preparing for what might go wrong, you're implicitly telling yourself, I can't handle what comes. I need to control everything. I'm not capable of dealing with uncertainty. And this belief weakens your resilience. Breathe with me for a moment. Let's return to now. In through your nose. Feel the air enter your body. Out through your mouth. Feel the release. Notice, right now, in this breath, nothing bad is happening. The future you're worried about isn't here. It's just you, breathing, in this moment. And in this moment, you are okay.
Let's explore what worry feels like in your body. When you think about the future, when you imagine what could go wrong, when you rehearse difficult conversations, when you anticipate worst-case scenarios, your body responds. You might notice a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, tension in your shoulders, a quickening of your heartbeat. These sensations are real. They're the physical manifestation of thoughts about a future that doesn't exist yet. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. When your mind creates a vivid mental image of something going wrong, your body treats it as if it's happening. This is because of how your brain processes imagination versus reality. The same neural circuits that activate when you experience something directly also activate when you vividly imagine it. So when you worry, you're not just thinking about the future, you're experiencing it physiologically as if it's already here. And this is exhausting because you're living through stressful events multiple times, once in imagination and then again if they actually occur. There's a concept in psychology called borrowing trouble from tomorrow. It means you're taking problems that don't exist yet and bringing them into today. You're allowing future possibilities, many of which will never happen, to steal your peace in the present. Research shows that most of what we worry about never comes to pass. Studies suggest that roughly 85% of the things people worry about either don't happen or, if they do happen, turn out better than expected. But worry doesn't care about statistics. Worry operates on possibility, not probability. As long as something could happen, worry insists you prepare for it. And so your mind keeps spinning, keeps predicting, keeps living in a tomorrow that hasn't arrived and might never arrive in the form you're imagining. So here you are, lying in the dark, your body tired but your mind racing forward. Tomorrow's tasks, next week's uncertainties, the future you cannot control but desperately want to. And somewhere beneath all this mental activity, there's a quieter truth. This moment, right now, is all you actually have. Tomorrow doesn't exist yet. It's a concept, a possibility, a mental construct your brain uses to navigate time. But this breath, this moment, this is real. This is where your life is actually happening. And the question we'll explore together tonight is not how to stop thinking about the future. That's impossible and not even desirable. The question is, how do you stop living in the future? How do you break the cycle of constant worry? How do you teach your mind that it's safe to be here, now, without needing to control what comes next? And to answer that, we must first understand why your brain is so addicted to prediction, why it believes that thinking about tomorrow is the key to survival.
Chapter 2. The Brain's Prediction Addiction. Your mind believes it can control the future by thinking about it. This is not a flaw. This is survival instinct, the gift and curse of a brain designed to anticipate danger. Let's explore why your thoughts race forward, always searching for what comes next, and why they can't seem to stop. Imagine your brain as a prediction machine. Every moment, it's not just processing what's happening now, it's guessing what will happen next, what that sound means, what that person is about to say, what consequence will follow the decision you're about to make. Your brain is constantly generating predictions, thousands of them every day, most of them so automatic you never notice them happening. You reach for a cup and your brain predicts its weight before you lift it. You hear footsteps and your brain predicts who's approaching. You see clouds gathering and your brain predicts rain. This predictive ability is one of the most powerful features of human cognition. It's how you navigate the world efficiently. It's how you learn from experience. It's how you stay safe. But it's also why you worry. Because your brain doesn't just predict practical, immediate things, it predicts everything, including threats that haven't materialized, dangers that might never arrive, futures that exist only as possibilities, not actualities. And once it starts predicting, it struggles to stop. Let's go back in time for a moment. Let's understand why your brain evolved this way. Your ancestors lived in environments where the ability to anticipate danger was the difference between life and death. The rustle in the grass could be wind, or it could be a predator. The person approaching could be friendly,
or they could be hostile. The food might be safe, or it might be poisonous. Those who were good at predicting, who could read subtle cues, anticipate danger, prepare for threats before they arrived, survived long enough to pass on their genes. Those who lived only in the present moment, who didn't plan ahead, who didn't worry about what might happen, they didn't survive as often. So evolution favored the worriers, the planners, the ones whose minds raced forward, always searching for what comes next. You are their descendant, and you carry their predictive, future-focused, vigilant brain. But here's the challenge. The world has changed faster than your brain could adapt. The threats your ancestors faced were immediate and concrete: a predator, a rival, a storm, things you could see, respond to, and then move past. But the threats you face today are different. They're abstract, social, financial, existential. They don't resolve quickly, they linger, they multiply, and many of them exist only as possibilities, not actualities. Yet your brain treats them the same way it treated ancient dangers. It predicts, it prepares, it worries. And because these modern threats never fully resolve, the prediction machine never turns off. Let's talk about what happens in your brain when you worry about the future. There's a network of brain regions called the default mode network, or DMN. This network becomes active when you're not focused on external tasks, when you're daydreaming, reflecting, or thinking about the future. The DMN is where your mind wanders, where it creates narratives, where it simulates scenarios that haven't happened yet. When this network is functioning normally, it helps you plan, imagine, and make sense of your experiences. It's a beautiful, creative, essential part of being human. But in anxious minds, the DMN becomes hyperactive. It doesn't just wander occasionally, it dominates. It pulls you out of the present moment constantly, dragging your attention to future worries, past regrets, imagined disasters. And the more time you spend in this network, the stronger it becomes. Neural pathways strengthen through use, so the more you worry, the better your brain gets at worrying. It's like a muscle that's been overused. It becomes the default, the automatic, the thing your brain does without you even deciding to do it. Here's what makes this prediction addiction so difficult to break. Your brain believes prediction equals control. When you think through all the possible outcomes, when you mentally rehearse what you'll say or do, when you plan for every contingency, it feels like you're doing something, like you're taking action, like you're protecting yourself. And sometimes this is true. Sometimes planning is useful. Sometimes anticipating problems helps you prepare. But there's a point where planning becomes rumination, where preparation becomes paralysis, where the mental rehearsal of the future replaces actual engagement with the present. And your brain can't always tell the difference. It keeps predicting because prediction feels productive. It feels like control, even when it's not, even when all the worry in the world cannot change what hasn't happened yet.
Let's explore a specific example. You have a difficult conversation coming up tomorrow. Maybe with your boss, maybe with someone you love, maybe with yourself. Your mind begins predicting. It runs through scenarios. What if they get angry? What if I say the wrong thing? What if this ruins everything? You rehearse your words. You imagine their responses. You prepare counter-arguments. You plan escape routes. And with each mental rehearsal, your body responds. Your heart rate increases. Your muscles tense. Stress hormones release. You're experiencing the conversation multiple times before it even happens, living through the anxiety again and again in imagination. And here's the cruel irony. When the actual conversation happens, it almost never goes the way you predicted. People surprise you. Circumstances shift. The reality is different from the simulation. But by then, you've already exhausted yourself with worry. You've already lived through the stress multiple times. This is the cost of prediction addiction. You pay for future pain in present anxiety, even when that future pain never arrives. Breathe with me now. Let's interrupt the prediction machine, just for this moment. in through your nose. Notice the sensation of air entering. Out through your mouth. Feel the release, the letting go. Right now, you're not in tomorrow's conversation. You're not in next week's challenge. You're here, breathing, in this moment. And in this moment, the future hasn't happened yet. The predictions are just thoughts. The worries are just mental events. They feel real. They feel urgent. But they're not reality. Not yet. Maybe not ever. There's a neuroscientific reason why it's so hard to stop predicting, even when you want to. Your brain's prediction system operates largely outside conscious control. It's part of your automatic processing, the background operations that run constantly without your awareness. You can't simply decide to stop predicting the way you can decide to stop reading or speaking. But you can become aware of when it's happening. You can notice when your mind has left the present and traveled to tomorrow. You can observe the predictions without believing them completely. This awareness doesn't stop the predictions, but it changes your relationship to them. Instead of, these predictions are facts about the future, you begin to recognize, these are thoughts my brain is generating, possibilities, not certainties, simulations, not reality. And that shift, subtle as it seems, is profound. Because when you stop treating predictions as facts, they lose some of their power over you. They become lighter, more optional, less consuming. Here's what you need to understand about your prediction addiction. It's not your fault. Your brain is doing what it was designed to do. It's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to prepare you for danger. It's trying to give you control in an uncertain world. It's not entirely wrong. Some level of future thinking is necessary and healthy. Planning has value. Anticipation can be useful. But it's stuck. The dial has been turned up too high. The prediction machine is running too often, too intensely, for problems that don't require this level of mental preparation. And the exhaustion you feel, the constant mental spinning, the inability to rest in the present moment, this is the consequence of a system that won't turn off. So, as you lie here tonight, notice where your mind wants to go. Does it want to travel to tomorrow? To replay what happened today? To worry about what comes next? This is normal. This is what minds do, especially anxious minds. But notice, too, that you have a choice, not to stop the thoughts, but to gently redirect your attention, to bring yourself back again and again to this breath, this moment, this now. Not forcefully, not with frustration, but with the understanding that your brain is simply doing what it was trained to do. And with patience, with practice, you can teach it something new. That it's safe to be here, in the present, without needing to control or predict what comes next. But first, we must understand the true cost of living this way, the way tomorrow steals today, and how the future you're preparing for is consuming the life you're actually living.
Chapter 3. When Tomorrow Steals Today. The future you worry about exists only in imagination, yet it consumes your present, draining your energy, stealing your peace, making this moment feel like a waiting room for something that hasn't happened yet. Tonight, we'll understand the cost of living in a time that doesn't exist. Right now, as you lie here, the sun has already set. The day has happened. The hours have passed. Moments came and went. Breakfast, conversations, the light changing through windows, footsteps, breath, the small details that make up a life. But how much of it did you actually experience? How much were you truly present for? Or were you somewhere else, mentally rehearsing tomorrow's meeting, worrying about next week's deadline, replaying that conversation, imagining how it could have gone differently, planning, preparing, predicting, living everywhere except here,
everywhere except now. This is what happens when tomorrow steals today, when the future consumes the present, when your life becomes a waiting room for events that haven't arrived yet. And the cost of this, the true cost, is not just the anxiety you feel, it's the life you're missing. Let's talk about what presence actually means. Presence is not a spiritual concept. It's not about achieving some enlightened state where thoughts never arise. Presence, from a neurological perspective, means your attention is anchored in the current moment. Your senses are engaged with what's happening now. Your awareness is here, not scattered across time. When you're present, you notice things. The taste of food, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of rain, the feeling of your own breath moving through your body. You're not just going through the motions, you're actually experiencing your life as it unfolds. But when your mind is focused on the future, when you're worried about what might happen, what you need to prepare for, what could go wrong, your attention fragments. You're physically here, but mentally elsewhere. Your body moves through the day, but your consciousness is projected forward in time, living in a future that doesn't exist yet. And in that projection, you miss the only moment that actually exists, this one. Here's what research shows about people who spend most of their time thinking about the future. They report lower levels of happiness, not because their lives are objectively worse, but because they're not fully experiencing their lives. They're living in anticipation, in preparation, in worry. And these states feel very different from actually being here. They have difficulty forming memories. When you're not present for an experience, your brain doesn't encode it as richly. Later, when you try to remember, the memory is vague, thin, almost like it happened to someone else, because, in a sense, you weren't really there. They struggle with decision-making. When your mind is constantly in the future, you lose touch with your intuition, with your body's signals, with the present moment information that helps guide choices. You become stuck in analysis, in prediction, in trying to think your way to certainty. They experience chronic stress. Living in the future means living in a state of anticipation and preparation. Your nervous system stays activated, ready for what's coming, but what's coming never arrives. It's always ahead of you, always out of reach, so the activation never resolves. This is the cost of tomorrow stealing today. Not just anxiety, but a life half-lived, a life observed from a distance rather than inhabited. Let's explore a specific example. You're having dinner with someone you care about. The food is good. The company is warm. On the surface, it's a pleasant moment. But your mind isn't here. It's at work, thinking about the project due next week. It's running through your to-do list. It's worrying about the conversation you need to have tomorrow. You're nodding, smiling, responding when spoken to, but you're not really listening. You're not tasting the food. You're not seeing the person across the table. Later, when they ask, "How was dinner?" you'll struggle to remember. It passed in a blur. You were there, but you weren't really there. This is what future-focused worry does. It robs you of the present. It turns moments that should be nourishing, connecting, meaningful, into background noise while your mind churns through tomorrow's concerns. And the tragedy is, you can never get those moments back. They're gone. They happened, but you weren't present for them. Breathe with me now. Let's return to this moment, even just for a few breaths. In through your nose. Feel the sensation. Cool air entering. Out through your mouth. Feel the warmth leaving. Notice, right now, you're not at tomorrow's meeting. You're not dealing with next week's problems. You're here, breathing, alive, in this single moment. And this moment is enough. It doesn't require you to be anywhere else or prepare for anything else. It simply is.
There's a neurological explanation for why future-focused thinking steals the present. Your brain has limited attentional resources. You can't fully attend to multiple things simultaneously. When your attention is directed toward thoughts about the future, it's necessarily pulled away from sensory experience in the present. It's like trying to watch two movies at once. One is happening on the screen in front of you, your actual life, unfolding moment by moment. The other is playing in your mind, the imagined future, the predictions, the worries. And when you're watching the mental movie, you miss what's happening in real life. This divided attention creates a sense of disconnection, of going through the motions, of life feeling less vivid, less real, less satisfying. Because you're not fully here. Half of you is always somewhere else, preparing for a tomorrow that hasn't arrived. Let's talk about anticipation versus presence. Anticipation can be positive. Looking forward to something can bring joy. Planning can be creative and exciting. Imagining future possibilities is part of what makes us human. But there's a difference between healthy anticipation and anxious worry. Healthy anticipation feels open, light, curious. It doesn't demand certainty. It creates tension in your body. It's a desperate attempt to control what you cannot control. And when worry dominates, when most of your future thinking is anxious rather than curious, you lose access to the present. You become trapped in tomorrow, unable to be here, unable to rest in now. Here's what you're missing when tomorrow steals today. The small beauties, the way light falls through a window, the sound of laughter, the taste of morning coffee, the feeling of stretching after sitting. These moments are fleeting, quiet, easy to overlook, but they're the texture of life. And when you're not present, they vanish unnoticed. Connection with others. Real connection happens in presence, when you're truly listening, truly seeing the person in front of you, truly here with them. But when your mind is elsewhere, connection becomes shallow, transactional. You're together physically, but alone mentally. Your own body. When you live in your head, planning and worrying, you lose touch with your physical experience. You don't notice tension building. You ignore hunger, fatigue, the need to rest. You become disconnected from the very vessel that carries you through life. Peace. The present moment, when you're actually in it, is almost always okay. It's rarely as bad as your worried mind predicts. The anxiety lives in the future. The peace lives in the now. And when you abandon now for tomorrow, you abandon peace for anxiety. So as you lie here tonight, consider this. The future you're worried about, the one consuming your thoughts, draining your energy, stealing your present, it doesn't exist yet. It's a mental construct, a possibility, a simulation. And while you're living in that simulation, your actual life is happening. Moments are passing, time is moving, today is unfolding. And you're not here for it. You're somewhere else, preparing for a tomorrow that may never come, or that will come in a form completely different from what you're imagining. This is not living. This is waiting, preparing, rehearsing, existing in a perpetual not yet. But life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't pause while you worry. It simply happens whether you are present for it or not. And the question becomes, how much of your life are you willing to miss? How many more days will you spend mentally elsewhere, waiting for a future that's always just out of reach? And beneath that question lies an even deeper one. Why does your mind believe it needs to control the future? What is it about uncertainty that feels so threatening that you'd rather live in worry than in presence?
Chapter 4. The Illusion of Control. You think if you worry enough, plan enough, prepare enough, you can make the future safe. But control is an illusion. The more you grasp for certainty, the more anxious you become. Let's explore what happens when you try to hold water in your hands, and why letting go might be the only way forward.
Imagine trying to hold water in your cupped hands. At first, it seems possible. You scoop it up carefully. You hold your hand steady. You try not to move. But no matter how still you stay, the water begins to slip through. A drop here, a trickle there. Your fingers tighten, trying to prevent the loss. But the tighter you hold, the faster it escapes. Eventually, your hands are empty. The water is gone. And all your effort to contain it only made you more aware of your inability to keep it. This is what it's like to try to control the future. You believe that if you just think hard enough, plan thoroughly enough, worry intensely enough, you can prevent bad things from happening. You can make the future safe. You can eliminate uncertainty. But the future, like water, cannot be held. And the more desperately you try, the more anxious you become. Let's understand what control actually is and what it isn't. Control is real in some domains. You can control your actions. You can control your responses. You can control your effort, your choices, your words. These are genuine forms of agency, and they matter. But you cannot control outcomes. You cannot control other people's choices. You cannot control randomness, chance, the unexpected events that shape life in ways you never anticipated. And yet your mind keeps trying. Because control feels like safety. Predictability feels like protection. Certainty feels like peace. And so when the future is uncertain, which it always is, your mind goes into overdrive. It tries to think through every possibility, to plan for every contingency, to eliminate every variable that could lead to an outcome you don't want. This is the illusion of control, believing that mental effort can create certainty in an inherently uncertain world. Here's what happens in your brain when you try to control the future. Your prefrontal cortex, the planning, problem-solving part of your brain, becomes hyperactive. It's working overtime, running simulations, creating contingency plans, searching for patterns that might help you predict what comes next. At the same time, your amygdala, the fear detection center, stays activated. Because if the future is uncertain, then danger is possible. And if danger is possible, you must stay vigilant. This combination creates a state of anxious rumination. Your thinking brain is spinning, trying to figure everything out. Your emotional brain is on high alert, sensing threat in the unknown. And the more you engage in this process, the more convinced you become that control is necessary. That if you just think a little harder, a little longer, you'll find the answer. You'll eliminate the uncertainty. You'll make everything okay. But you won't, because the uncertainty is inherent to the future. It's not a problem to solve. It's a feature of existence. Let's talk about why the illusion of control is so compelling. When you worry about the future and then something goes well, your brain makes a connection. I worried and things turned out okay. Therefore, worrying helped. This is a cognitive bias called illusory correlation. Your brain links two events, worrying and a positive outcome, even though there's no actual causal relationship. It's like wearing a lucky shirt to an interview and getting the job. The shirt didn't cause the success, but your brain might believe it did. The same thing happens with worry. You worry about a presentation and it goes well. You worry about a health concern and it turns out to be nothing. You worry about a relationship and it improves. And your brain learns, worry works. Worry keeps me safe. I need to keep doing this. But the truth is, the outcomes would have unfolded the same way with or without the worry. The worry didn't prevent disaster. It only created suffering in the present while you waited for a future that was never in your control anyway.
Breathe with me now. Let's notice what it feels like to let go, even just for a moment. In through your nose, fill your lungs gently. Out through your mouth, release completely. Notice, in this breath, you're not controlling tomorrow. You're not planning. You're not preparing. You're simply here, breathing, trusting that this moment is enough. And it is. It always has been. There's a psychological concept called tolerance for uncertainty. It refers to your ability to be okay with not knowing what will happen next. Some people have a high tolerance for uncertainty. They can sit with the unknown without becoming anxious. They understand that they can't control everything, and they've made peace with that. Others have a low tolerance. For them, uncertainty feels dangerous, intolerable, like standing on the edge of a cliff, not knowing if the ground will hold. And when your tolerance for uncertainty is low, your mind compensates by trying to control everything, by planning, predicting, worrying, anything to create a sense of stability in the chaos. But here's the paradox. The more you try to control, the more anxious you become, because you keep confronting the limits of your control. You keep discovering that despite all your effort, you still can't eliminate uncertainty. And this realization doesn't bring acceptance. It brings more anxiety, more worry, more desperate attempts to control what cannot be controlled. It's a trap, a cycle, and the only way out is through acceptance, not control. Let's explore what happens when you try to control other people. You worry about how someone will react to your words, so you rehearse the conversation 100 times. You plan what to say, how to say it, when to say it. You're trying to control their response, to eliminate the possibility that they'll be upset, disappointed, or angry. But you can't control their response. They're a separate person with their own thoughts, feelings, history, patterns. They'll react in whatever way they react, regardless of how perfectly you plan your words. And when you realize this, when you confront the fact that despite all your mental rehearsal, you still can't control their reaction, you feel more anxious, not less. Because the illusion has cracked, and beneath it is the truth. You never had control in the first place. This applies to everything. You can't control whether you get the job, whether the relationship works out, whether your health stays stable, whether your loved ones stay safe. You can influence, you can prepare, you can do your best, but you cannot control outcomes. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you can stop exhausting yourself trying to hold water in your hands. Here's the deeper truth beneath the illusion of control. What you're really seeking isn't control, it's safety. You want to feel safe. You want to know that everything will be okay, that you won't be hurt, abandoned, disappointed, or devastated. And because the future is uncertain, because safety cannot be guaranteed, your mind tries to create it through control. If I can just figure this out, if I can just plan perfectly, if I can just worry enough, then I'll be safe. But safety doesn't come from control. It comes from trust. Trust in yourself. Trust that you can handle what comes. Trust that even if things don't go as planned, even if the worst happens, you'll find a way through. And this kind of trust cannot be thought into existence. It has to be built through experience, through surviving difficult things, through realizing again and again that you're more resilient than you think. So as you lie here tonight, consider this. All the worry, all the planning, all the mental energy you're pouring into trying to control the future, it's not working. It's not making you safer. It's not eliminating uncertainty. It's only stealing your peace, exhausting your mind, keeping you trapped in a cycle of anxiety that feeds itself. What if you stopped trying to control? What if you loosened your grip just a little and allowed the future to unfold without needing to manage every detail? This doesn't mean giving up.
It doesn't mean being passive. It means recognizing the difference between what you can control and what you can't, and redirecting your energy accordingly, putting your effort into your actions, your responses, your presence, and releasing the outcomes to the unknown. But letting go is terrifying when your mind has spent years believing that worry keeps you safe. And that's the loop we must understand next, the cycle that makes release feel impossible.
Chapter 5. The Loop That Never Ends. One worry leads to another. What if this? What if that? Your mind spins scenarios, each one more frightening than the last. This is the anxiety loop, a cycle of thought that feeds itself, growing stronger with each rotation. Tonight, we'll watch this loop together and understand how it begins. It starts with a single thought, a small worry, a fleeting concern, something that crosses your mind and, in a calmer moment, might pass right through without leaving a trace. What if I mess up that presentation tomorrow? But instead of passing through, it catches, like a hook snagging fabric, and your mind pulls on it. If I mess up, people will notice. They'll think I'm incompetent. They might lose faith in me. What if I lose my credibility? What if this affects my career? Now the thought has multiplied. What began as a simple worry about a presentation has spiraled into a catastrophic thinking about your entire future. And once the spiral begins, it's hard to stop, because each worry generates another worry. Each what if leads to a bigger, scarier what if. This is the anxiety loop, and tonight we're going to watch it unfold together, not to stop it, but to understand it, to see how it works, why it's so compelling, and why it feels impossible to escape. Let's break down the anatomy of the loop. Step 1. The trigger. A thought arrives. Often it's about something uncertain in the future, an upcoming event, a decision you need to make, something you can't control. Step 2. The elaboration. Your mind doesn't leave the thought alone. It begins to elaborate, to imagine details, to project forward in time. What could go wrong? What would that lead to? What would happen then? Step 3. The emotional response. As you imagine these scenarios, your body responds, anxiety rises, your heart quickens, tension builds. These physical sensations confirm to your mind that yes, there really is something to worry about. Step 4. The search for certainty. Now your mind tries to resolve the uncertainty. It searches for answers. How can I prevent this? What can I do to make sure this doesn't happen? How can I control this outcome? But the future is inherently uncertain, so your search for answers generates more questions, more what-ifs, more scenarios to worry about. And the loop continues, round and round, each rotation strengthening the pattern, making it more automatic, more difficult to interrupt. Here's what makes the anxiety loop so powerful. It mimics problem solving. Your brain is designed to solve problems. When you encounter a challenge, your mind naturally works to find a solution. This is adaptive. This is useful. But worry is not problem solving. Worry is rumination. Problem solving is solution-focused. It asks, what can I do about this? And when it finds an answer, it stops. Worry is threat-focused. It asks, what could go wrong? And when it finds an answer, it generates more questions. Problem-solving moves forward. Worry spins in place. But your brain can't always tell the difference, so it keeps engaging with worry as if it's productive thinking, as if the next thought, the next mental rehearsal, the next what if will finally lead to resolution. But it won't, because worry doesn't resolve, it perpetuates. Let's follow a specific example of how the loop intensifies. You send an email. It's important. You wait for a response. A few hours pass. No response. The first thought, I hope they received it. innocent enough, but your mind doesn't stop there. What if they're ignoring it? What if I said something wrong? What if they're upset with me? Now your body responds, a flutter of anxiety, a tightness in your chest. What if this damages the relationship? What if they tell other people? What if this affects my reputation? The anxiety intensifies, the scenarios escalate. What started as a simple, reasonable concern has become a catastrophic narrative about your entire social standing. And now you're checking your email obsessively, rereading what you sent, looking for mistakes, imagining their reaction, rehearsing what you'll say if they confront you. Your mind is completely consumed, not by what's actually happening, which is simply that someone hasn't responded to an email yet, but by a cascade of imagined disasters that exist nowhere except in your thoughts. This is the loop at work, and it can sustain itself for hours, days, even weeks. Breathe with me now. Let's step out of the loop for just a moment. In through your nose, slowly, gently. Out through your mouth. Let it all go. Notice, right now, in this breath, you're not in the loop. You're here, present, not spinning through scenarios, just breathing. The loop is still there, waiting, but in this moment, you're free from it. There's a neurological explanation for why the loop is so hard to interrupt. When you worry, you're activating a network in your brain that connects your prefrontal cortex, thinking, with your amygdala, fear. This network strengthens with use. Each time you run through a worry cycle, you're reinforcing the neural pathway that connects anxious thoughts to anxious feelings. Your brain learns, when I encounter uncertainty, I should worry, and when I worry, I should feel afraid, and when I feel afraid, I should worry more. It's a feedback loop. The thoughts create feelings. The feelings validate the thoughts. The thoughts intensify the feelings, and so on. And over time, this pattern becomes automatic. You don't consciously choose to worry. Your brain simply defaults to it. The loop starts spinning before you even realize it's begun.
This is why trying to stop worrying through willpower often fails, because you're fighting against a deeply ingrained pattern, a habit your brain has learned through thousands of repetitions. Here's another aspect of the loop that makes it so sticky: negative reinforcement. Sometimes, after you've worried intensely about something, it doesn't happen. The feared outcome doesn't materialize. And your brain makes a connection. I worried, and the bad thing didn't happen. Therefore, worrying prevented it. This isn't logical. The outcome would have been the same whether you worried or not. But your brain doesn't care about logic. It cares about patterns. And now the pattern is reinforced. Worry keeps me safe. I need to keep doing this. So the next time uncertainty arises, the loop spins even faster, because your brain believes worry is protective, that if you stop worrying, something bad will happen. This is the trap. The loop convinces you that it's necessary, that it's serving a purpose, that you can't afford to let go. But the truth is, worry doesn't prevent disaster. It only creates suffering in the present, while you wait for a future that unfolds independent of your thoughts. Let's talk about what the loop costs you. Energy. Worry is mentally exhausting. It drains cognitive resources. By the end of a day spent in the loop, you're depleted, not from productive work, but from spinning your mental wheels. Presence. When you're in the loop, you're not here. You're mentally rehearsing conversations, imagining disasters, planning defenses. The present moment passes by unnoticed. Sleep. The loop doesn't respect bedtime. It follows you into the night, and as you lie in the dark, it spins and spins, keeping you awake, keeping you anxious, keeping you trapped. Joy. The loop makes it impossible to fully experience positive moments. Even when things are going well, your mind is already jumping ahead to what could go wrong next.
And perhaps most significantly, the loop makes you believe that you can't handle life without it, that if you stop worrying, something terrible will happen, that vigilance is the only thing keeping you safe. So as you lie here tonight, notice if the loop is spinning. Notice what thought it's circling around. Notice how each worry leads to another. Notice how your body responds to these imagined scenarios as if they're real. And notice, too, that you can observe the loop without being in it. You can watch it happen without believing every thought it generates. This is the first step toward freedom, recognition, seeing the loop for what it is, not truth, not problem-solving, not protection, just a pattern, a habit, a cycle that's been running for so long you forgot you could step out of it. But stepping out requires understanding something deeper, why your body responds so intensely to thoughts about the future, and why your nervous system treats imagination as if it were reality.
Chapter 6. Your body believes the stories. When you worry about the future, your body responds as if the threat is happening now. Your heart races for a danger that exists only in thought. Your muscles tense for a battle that hasn't begun. Let's explore how imagination becomes physiology and why your body can't tell the difference between real and imagined threats. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine biting into a lemon. Picture it clearly, the bright yellow skin, the tart, sharp smell. Now imagine cutting into it, bringing a slice to your mouth and biting down. Feel the sour juice hit your tongue. Did you notice? Your mouth probably began to water. Maybe you even felt your face tighten slightly, anticipating the sourness. But there's no lemon. There never was. It existed only in your imagination. And yet your body responded. Real saliva, real sensation, a physical reaction to something that wasn't physically there. This is the power and the problem of imagination. Your body doesn't always know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, between what's happening and what you're only thinking about. And when you worry about the future, when you imagine worst-case scenarios, when you mentally rehearse disasters that haven't occurred, your body treats those thoughts as if they're actual threats. It responds, it prepares, it activates the same systems it would if danger were present right now. Let's explore what happens in your body when you worry. You're lying in bed, it's quiet, it's dark. Nothing threatening is actually happening. But your mind begins to spin. What if I can't pay that bill? What if they fire me? What if something bad happens to someone I love? These are just thoughts, mental events, patterns of neural firing in your brain. But within moments, your body responds. Your heart rate increases, not dramatically, but noticeably. Your breathing becomes shallower, faster. Your muscles tense, particularly in your shoulders, your jaw, your abdomen. Your hands might feel cold as blood flow redirects away from your extremities and toward your core. Your stomach might tighten or feel unsettled. You might feel a wave of heat or a chill run through you. All of this is the stress response, the fight or flight system activating, your body preparing for danger. But there is no danger. Not in this moment, not in this room. The threat exists only in thought, in imagination, in a future that hasn't arrived, yet your body cannot tell the difference. Here's why this happens. Your brain processes imagined threats in the same regions that process real threats. When you vividly imagine something frightening, your amygdala, the fear detection center, activates. It doesn't pause to check whether the threat is real or imagined. It simply responds to the content of the thought. Your hypothalamus receives the signal and triggers your sympathetic nervous system. Stress hormones begin to release, adrenaline, cortisol, the chemical messengers that prepare your body for action.
Your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, reasoning part of your brain, knows the threat isn't real. It knows you're just lying in bed, safe, thinking about possibilities. But the emotional and physiological systems don't always listen to reason. They respond to perception. And if your mind perceives threat, your body prepares accordingly. This is why worry is so exhausting, because you're not just thinking about future problems, you're physiologically experiencing them over and over in the present. Let's look at a specific example. Imagine you have a difficult conversation scheduled for tomorrow. Nothing bad has happened yet. The conversation hasn't occurred, but you're worried. You begin to imagine how it might go wrong. You picture their face, angry or disappointed. You imagine the words they might say. You rehearse your defense, your explanation, your apology. And as you do this, your body responds. Your heart beats faster. Your palms begin to sweat. Your throat tightens. Your breathing becomes restricted. You're experiencing the stress of the conversation before it even happens. Your body is living through it now in imagination. And if the conversation goes differently than you imagined or doesn't happen at all, you've still paid the physiological cost. You've still experienced the stress, the activation, the exhaustion. You've lived it once in imagination and then again, or not at all, in reality. This is the cruel efficiency of anxious imagination. It makes you suffer twice for things that might only happen once or never happen at all. Breathe with me now. Let's signal to your body that there's no threat here. In through your nose, deep and slow, let your belly expand. Out through your mouth, longer than the inhale. Let everything release. Feel your heart rate begin to slow. Feel your muscles begin to soften. This is your parasympathetic nervous system engaging, telling your body, we're safe. We can rest. One breath at a time, you're shifting the signal from threat to safety. There's a reason evolution created this system the way it did. For your ancestors, imagination was a survival tool. Being able to mentally simulate danger, to imagine where a predator might hide, to anticipate where food might be scarce, helped them prepare and survive. And if their bodies responded to those imagined scenarios, if they felt a surge of alertness when thinking about potential threats, that was adaptive. It kept them ready. It kept them vigilant. But in the modern world, this system has become problematic. The threats you face aren't predators you can fight or flee from. They're social threats, financial threats, existential threats, abstract possibilities that can't be resolved with physical action. And yet, your body still responds as if they're immediate physical dangers, as if the difficult conversation is a predator, as if the financial worry is an attack. Your physiology hasn't caught up to the change in threat type. It's still operating on ancient programming, preparing you to fight or run from dangers that exist only in your mind. Here's what this means for chronic worry. When you spend hours, days, weeks worrying about the future, your body spends that same time in a low-level state of activation. Not full panic, not acute stress, but a persistent simmering arousal. Heart rate slightly elevated, muscles slightly tense, stress hormones slightly raised. This state has a name, allostatic load. It's the wear and tear on your body from chronic stress, and over time it takes a toll. You feel tired but wired, exhausted but unable to rest. Your sleep suffers, your digestion struggles, your immune system weakens, your mood darkens. Not because anything bad has actually happened, but because your body has been preparing for disaster over and over, based on thoughts about a future that hasn't arrived. Let's explore why your body believes the stories your mind tells.
Your brain uses simulation to make sense of the world. It doesn't passively receive information. It actively constructs your experience based on memory, expectation, and imagination. When you worry, you're creating a detailed simulation of a future threat, and your brain treats this simulation as if it's providing useful information about what's actually happening. It can't easily distinguish between this is a memory and this is imagination and this is happening now. They all activate similar neural networks. So when you vividly imagine a catastrophe, your brain processes it similarly to how it would process actually experiencing that catastrophe. And your body, receiving signals from your brain, responds accordingly. It doesn't have access to the meta-information that says, this is just a thought. It only receives the signal, threat detected, and it acts to protect you. So, as you lie here tonight, notice what stories your mind is telling. Notice if you're imagining future scenarios. Notice if your body is responding, tension, rapid heartbeat, shallow breath, that familiar knot of anxiety. And recognize your body isn't betraying you. It isn't overreacting. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, responding to the information your mind is providing. The problem isn't your body. The problem is that your mind is feeding it stories about threats that don't exist in this moment. And your body, loyal and protective, believes those stories. It prepares, it activates, it tries to keep you safe. But you're not in danger, not here, not now. The danger lives only in thought, in projection, in the future your mind keeps creating. And understanding this brings us to a deeper question. Why does your mind create these stories in the first place? Why does it feel compelled to imagine the worst, to predict disaster, to rehearse catastrophe? The answer lies not in your thoughts, but in your evolutionary history, in the ancestors who worried and survived.
Chapter 7. The Ancestor Who Worried Survived. Worry is not weakness, it's evolution. Your ancestors who anticipated danger, who planned for scarcity, who stayed vigilant, they survived. You carry their cautious genes. But the world has changed faster than your nervous system can adapt, and now the very trait that once saved lives keeps you awake at night. Imagine two of your ancestors, thousands of years ago, standing at the edge of a forest. One is relaxed, optimistic. They see the forest as a place of opportunity, berries to gather, animals to hunt, shelter to find. They walk in without hesitation, focused on the present moment, trusting that things will work out. The other is worried, cautious. They see the same forest, but imagine what could go wrong. Predators hiding in shadows, poisonous plants, getting lost, running out of daylight. They hesitate, they plan, they prepare. Which one survived more often? The worrier, the planner, the one who anticipated danger before it arrived. Not because they were smarter or stronger, but because they were more vigilant, more cautious, more willing to imagine worst-case scenarios and prepare for them. And you, lying here tonight, mind racing with worries about tomorrow, you are their descendant. You carry their genes, their nervous system, their tendency to scan for threats and prepare for dangers that might never come. This is not a flaw. This is evolution, and understanding this changes everything. Let's go back to the beginning, to the environment that shaped your brain. For most of human history, life was uncertain and dangerous. Food was not guaranteed, shelter was temporary, predators were real, rival groups posed threats, the weather could kill, injury or illness often meant death. In that world, anxiety was adaptive, worry was useful. The ability to anticipate problems, to imagine what could go wrong, to prepare for scarcity, these traits increased survival. Your ancestors who worried about whether they had enough food for winter actually stored more food. Those who worried about potential threats actually noticed dangers earlier. Those who planned ahead actually survived longer. And they passed on their genes. Their cautious, vigilant, future-focused tendencies became part of the human blueprint. The relaxed, present-moment-focused ancestors, many of them didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. They were caught off guard, unprepared, too trusting, too optimistic. So evolution favored worry. It favored vigilance. It favored the mind that lived partly in the future, always scanning, always preparing, always asking, what if? Here's the gift that worry gave your ancestors. It helped them anticipate scarcity. The ancestor who worried about winter stored extra food. The one who didn't ran out and starved. It helped them avoid danger. The ancestor who worried about predators stayed alert and noticed dangers earlier. The one who didn't became prey. It helped them make better decisions. The ancestor who worried about the consequences of their choices thought things through. The one who acted impulsively sometimes paid with their life. It helped them prepare for uncertainty. The ancestor who worried about what might go wrong had backup plans. The one who didn't was caught unprepared when circumstances changed. In that world, worry was not just useful, it was essential. It was the difference between survival and extinction. And because of this, your brain evolved to be good at worrying, to default to it, to prioritize imagining negative outcomes over positive ones. This is called negativity bias, and it's wired into your nervous system. Your brain pays attention to threats than opportunities. It remembers dangers more vividly than pleasures. It imagines worst-case scenarios more easily than best-case ones.
Not because you're pessimistic, but because your ancestors who thought this way survived. Breathe with me now. Let's honor this evolutionary gift, even as we recognize its cost. In through your nose, acknowledge the vigilance that kept your ancestors alive. Out through your mouth, release what no longer serves you in this moment. You are the product of millions of years of cautious, vigilant, future-focused thinking, and that's something to respect, even as you learn to soften it. But here's the problem. The world has changed. The dangers your ancestors faced were immediate, concrete, and short-lived. A predator attacked or it didn't. Winter came or it didn't. The threat was resolved relatively quickly, one way or another. And when the threat passed, the worry could stop. The nervous system could return to baseline. Rest was possible. But in the modern world, threats are different. They're not immediate, they're chronic, they're abstract, they linger without resolution. Financial insecurity doesn't resolve in a day. Social threats persist. Career uncertainties stretch on for months or years. Relationship anxieties simmer indefinitely. And your brain, still operating on ancient programming, treats all of these like the immediate survival threats your ancestors faced. It activates the same worry response, the same vigilance, the same future-focused thinking. But because these modern threats don't resolve quickly, the worry never stops. Your nervous system stays activated. The vigilance becomes exhausting rather than protective. You're using a system designed for acute, short-term dangers to manage chronic, long-term uncertainties, and it's not working. Let's talk about why your brain still functions this way. Evolution is slow. It takes thousands of generations for significant changes to occur in the human genome. Your brain's basic architecture, including its threat detection systems, its tendency toward worry, its negativity bias, was shaped over millions of years in environments very different from the one you live in now. But modern life, with its cities, technology, abstract threats, constant information, and unprecedented levels of safety, emerged in just the last few centuries, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. Your biology hasn't had time to catch up. Your nervous system is still calibrated for the ancestral environment, not the modern one. So you carry ancient hardware running in a modern world, and sometimes the mismatch creates problems. The same worry that saved your ancestors' lives now keeps you awake at night. The same vigilance that helped them survive now exhausts you. The same future-focused thinking that helped them prepare now prevents you from being present. This isn't your fault. This isn't weakness. This is simply the reality of being human in a world that changed faster than your nervous system could adapt. Here's another layer to this evolutionary story. Not only did the worriers survive, but so did those who worried for others. The ancestors who stayed up at night thinking about the safety of their children, their family, their tribe, they protected more than just themselves. This trait, the tendency to worry about loved ones, to imagine threats to those you care about, to feel responsible for their well-being, this also got passed down. So when you lie awake worrying about your children, your partner, your aging parents, you're experiencing an evolutionary legacy, the same protective instinct that helped keep families and communities alive for millennia. But again, the modern context has changed. The threats to your loved ones are different now, and your ability to control those threats is more limited than it once was. Yet your brain still activates the same protective worry, the same vigilant concern, the same desperate need to keep everyone safe. And when you can't eliminate the threats, when you can't control the outcomes, the worry intensifies rather than resolves. So as you lie here tonight, understand this. Your worry is not a personal failing. It's not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's an evolutionary inheritance, a trait passed down from ancestors who survived because they worried. You come from a long line of vigilant, cautious, future-focused humans, and that vigilance served them well. But you're not living in their world. The threats you face are different, the dangers are different, and the strategies that help them survive now are creating suffering for you. This doesn't mean you need to stop worrying entirely. Some level of concern, some degree of planning, some capacity to anticipate problems, these are still useful. But the intensity has to change. The frequency has to shift. The automatic, relentless, exhausting worry that consumes your present in service of an uncertain future, that no longer serves you. And perhaps the most important recognition is this. Your ancestors worried about real, immediate threats, but you're worrying about possibilities, probabilities, imagined scenarios. They worried to survive. You worry because your nervous system hasn't learned yet that you're not in constant danger, that the world, despite its challenges, is safer now than it's ever been. And that brings us to a crucial realization. While you've been living in the future, preparing for what might come, the present moment has been passing by, and it's in this moment, not tomorrow, that your life is actually happening.
Chapter 8. The present moment you're missing. While you worry about tomorrow, today is happening. The sun moves across the sky. Your breath flows in and out. Life unfolds in this moment, but you're not here to experience it. Tonight, we'll explore what it means to return to now, not as a spiritual concept, but as a neurological shift that changes everything. Right now, as you read these words, something is happening around you. Maybe there's a sound, the hum of a fan, the distant murmur of traffic, the quiet settling of a house at night. Maybe there's a sensation, the weight of your body against the surface beneath you, the temperature of the air on your skin, the rhythm of your breath moving in and out. Maybe there's a quality to the light, soft, dim, the kind of darkness that invites rest. All of this is happening now, in this moment, in the only time that actually exists. But chances are, until I pointed it out, you weren't noticing any of it, because your attention was elsewhere, in thought, in worry,
in the mental realm where past and future exist, but the present does not. Here's what happens neurologically when you're lost in worry about the future. Your default node network, DMN, becomes dominant. This is the brain network associated with self-referential thinking, mind-wandering, and mental time travel. When the DMN is active, you're not engaged with the external world. You're engaged with your internal narrative, with the stories you tell yourself about who you are, what might happen, what you need to prepare for. At the same time, your salience network, which helps you notice what's important in the environment, becomes focused on internal threats rather than external stimuli. And your executive control network, which normally helps regulate attention, becomes overwhelmed trying to manage all the worry, all the scenarios, all the predictions. The result? You're physically present, but mentally absent. Your body is here, but your consciousness is elsewhere. You're going through the motions of life while missing the actual experience of living. This is not presence. This is existence without awareness, and it's exhausting. Breathe with me now. Let's practice returning to now. In through your nose. Notice the sensation of air entering your nostrils, cool, gentle. Out through your mouth. Notice the warmth leaving, the slight sound, the release. For just these few breaths, you're not in tomorrow, you're not replaying yesterday. You're here, noticing sensation, present with what is. This is the present moment, simple, immediate, always available. Let's talk about what you miss when you live in the future. Sensory richness. When your attention is in thought, you don't fully taste your food. You don't really see the colors around you. You don't notice the small beauties, the way light falls, the texture of fabric, the sound of rain. Connection. When you're with someone but mentally elsewhere, you're not truly connecting. You're hearing words but not listening. You're seeing them but not really seeing them. Presence is the foundation of genuine connection, and worry steals it. Peace. The present moment, when you're actually in it, is almost always okay. It's rarely as threatening as your worried mind predicts. The anxiety lives in the future. The peace lives in the now. And when you abandon now, you abandon peace. Your own life. This is the deepest cost. Your life is not happening tomorrow. It's happening now. And when you're chronically focused on the future, you're missing the only time you actually have to live.
Here's a profound truth that research supports. Most of what makes people happy is not about what happens to them, but about how present they are for what happens. Two people can experience the same event. One is fully present, noticing details, feeling emotions, engaging completely. The other is distracted, worried about what comes next, mentally rehearsing the future. The first person will remember the experience vividly. They'll extract more meaning from it. They'll feel more satisfied. The second person will barely remember it. It will feel hollow, unsatisfying, like it passed in a blur. Not because the event itself was different, but because their attention was different. Presence is not just a nice idea. It's the difference between living your life and merely existing through it. Let's explore what happens when you bring attention back to the present moment. Your default mode network quiets. The mental chatter decreases. The constant narrative about yourself and your future softens. Your salience network shifts focus to external sensory information. You begin to notice what's actually around you rather than what you're imagining. Your executive control network can finally do its job, regulating attention, maintaining focus, helping you engage with what's here. And something else happens, something remarkable. Your stress response begins to decrease. Because when you're truly in the present moment, noticing sensation, engaging with what's here, there's usually no immediate threat.
The danger lives in thought, in prediction, in the future your mind creates. But right now, you're probably safe. And when your attention is here, your nervous system can begin to recognize that safety. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is not toxic positivity. This is simply the neurological reality that your stress response is triggered by perceived threats. And most of those threats exist in mental time travel, not in present moment awareness. Here's an important distinction. Being present doesn't mean you never think about the future. Planning is useful. Preparation is valuable. Some degree of future thinking is necessary for navigating life. But there's a difference between intentional planning and chronic worrying. Intentional planning happens when you deliberately set aside time to think about the future. You make decisions, you create action steps, and then you return to the present. Chronic worrying happens when your mind is constantly, automatically, involuntarily pulled into future scenarios. Even when you're trying to be present, even when there's nothing you can do right now, the worry persists. The goal is not to eliminate future thinking. The goal is to make it voluntary rather than compulsive, to use it when it's helpful and release it when it's not, and to spend more of your life actually here, in the only moment where life is happening, rather than lost in mental projections of times that don't exist yet. So as you lie here tonight, notice where your attention wants to go. Does it want to jump ahead to tomorrow, to spin through scenarios, to rehearse conversations that haven't happened? This is normal. This is what minds do, especially anxious minds trained by evolution and experience to prepare for what comes next. But notice, too, that you have a choice. Not to stop the thoughts, that's often impossible, but to gently redirect attention, to bring it back to breath, to sensation, to what's actually here. Not forcefully, not with frustration, but with the understanding that this moment, this breath, this sensation, this now is where your life is actually happening. And each time you return to the present, you're not just practicing a technique, you're retraining your brain, teaching it that it's safe to be here, that it doesn't need to constantly monitor the future, that presence is possible, and even when worry arises, you can choose where to place your attention. But choosing requires more than intention. It requires understanding how to interrupt the pattern, how to teach your brain new habits, how to gently, patiently guide yourself back to now again and again until returning becomes natural. Chapter 9. Teaching your brain to let go. The worry loop can be interrupted, not through force, not through fighting, but through gentle redirection. Your brain can learn new patterns, can practice resting in uncertainty, can slowly release its grip on a future it cannot control. Let's explore how this relearning happens, one breath at a time. Imagine you've been walking the same path through a forest for years. The path is worn deep into the earth. Your feet know it intimately. You could walk it with your eyes closed. It's automatic, familiar, the default route your body takes without thinking. But this path leads somewhere you no longer want to go. It leads to a place of worry, of exhaustion, of constant future-focused thinking. So you decide to create a new path, a different route through the forest, one that leads somewhere more peaceful. At first, this new path doesn't exist. You're walking through untouched ground. It's difficult, unfamiliar. Your feet want to return to the old path because it's easier, more automatic. But each time you choose the new route, it becomes slightly clearer, slightly more worn, slightly more familiar. And each time you avoid the old path, it becomes slightly more overgrown, slightly less automatic. This is how you teach your brain to let go of chronic worry, not through force, not through fighting, but through the patient, gentle work of creating new neural pathways while allowing old ones to fade.
Let's understand what's happening neurologically when you try to change a pattern like worry. Your brain operates on a principle called neuroplasticity, the ability of neural pathways to change based on experience. Every time you worry about the future, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with that worry. The neurons that fire together wire together. The pattern becomes more automatic, more ingrained. But the opposite is also true. Every time you interrupt the worry pattern and redirect your attention, you weaken that old pathway and strengthen a new one. This doesn't happen instantly. Neural pathways that have been reinforced for years don't disappear after a single interruption. But with repetition, with patience, with consistent practice, the balance shifts. The old pattern weakens, the new pattern strengthens, and eventually, what once felt impossible becomes natural. This is the science of change, and it's available to you starting right now with this breath. Let's talk about how to actually interrupt the worry loop. Step 1. Notice. You can't change a pattern you're not aware of, so the first step is simply noticing when worry begins, when your mind starts spinning into the future, when the what-if thoughts arrive. Not judging, not criticizing yourself, just noticing. Ah, there's the worry. There's my mind doing what it's learned to do. This noticing creates a tiny space, a gap between the automatic thought and your response to it. And in that gap, choice becomes possible. Step 2. Name it. Silently, gently, label what's happening. This is worry. This is my mind predicting the future. This is the loop beginning. Research shows that simply naming an emotional or mental state activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that can regulate emotion. Naming creates distance. It reminds you that you're not the worry. You're the one noticing the worry. Step 3. Redirect. This is where the new path begins. Instead of following the worry into its spiral, you gently redirect attention to your breath, to sensation in your body, to a sound nearby, to the present moment. Not forcefully, not with frustration, but with the same gentleness you'd use to guide a child who's wandered off the path. Come back, it's okay, we're going this way now. Step 4. Repeat. The worry will come back, many times. This is normal. The old pathway is strong. Your brain will default to it. But each time you notice and redirect, you're teaching, you're creating, you're building the new path, one moment at a time. Breathe with me now. Let's practice this together. In through your nose. Notice if a worried thought is present. Out through your mouth. If worry is there, acknowledge it gently. I see you. Thank you for trying to protect me. In again. Bring attention to the sensation of breathing, the movement of air. Out again. Let the worry be there, but place your attention here, on breath, on now. This is the practice. Simple, gentle, endlessly patient. Here's what makes this practice difficult. Your mind will resist. It will tell you that worrying is necessary, that if you let go, something bad will happen, that you need to figure this out, solve this problem, prepare for this possibility. Your mind believes worry is productive, that it's keeping you safe, and letting go feels dangerous, reckless, irresponsible. This resistance is normal. It's part of the pattern. Your brain is protecting a strategy it believes has worked. So you don't fight the resistance. You acknowledge it. I know you think this is important. I know you're trying to help. But right now, we're choosing something different. And then you redirect, again and again and again. With practice,
The resistance weakens. Your brain begins to learn, when I let go of worry, nothing bad happens. When I rest in the present, I'm still safe. I don't need to control the future to be okay. But this learning takes time. It requires hundreds, maybe thousands of gentle redirections before the new pattern becomes automatic.
Chapter 10. The Wisdom in Uncertainty. What if not knowing is okay? What if the future's uncertainty is not a threat, but a gift, the space where possibility lives? Tonight, we'll explore a different relationship with tomorrow, one that doesn't require control or prediction, but allows you to be present with what is, rather than consumed by what might be. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You water it, you make sure it has sunlight, you tend the soil, you do everything within your control to help it grow. But you don't know what will happen. You don't know if it will sprout tomorrow or next week. You don't know how tall it will grow. You don't know if the weather will cooperate. You don't know what challenges it will face. The entire process is uncertain, unknown, beyond your control. And yet, you plant it anyway. You care for it anyway. You trust the process even though you cannot see the outcome. This is what living with uncertainty looks like. Not knowing, but tending. Not controlling, but participating. Not predicting, but being present with what is. And tonight, we explore what happens when you stop treating uncertainty as a problem to solve and start recognizing it as the fundamental condition of being alive. Let's be honest about what uncertainty is. Uncertainty is not a flaw in your planning. It's not something you failed to account for. It's not a gap in your knowledge that more worry will fill. Uncertainty is the nature of the future. It's intrinsic, irreducible. No amount of thinking, planning, or predicting can eliminate it. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know how things will unfold. You don't know which of your fears will materialize and which will dissolve like morning fog. And this not knowing, this fundamental uncertainty, is what makes life both terrifying and beautiful. Because if the future were certain, if you knew exactly what would happen, you would lose something essential: possibility, the space where change can occur, the openness where life can surprise you. Here's what research tells us about people who struggle with uncertainty. They report higher levels of anxiety, not because their lives are objectively more uncertain than others, but because they experience uncertainty as threatening. They engage in more worry, because worry feels like it's doing something about the uncertainty, even though it's not. They have difficulty making decisions, because every choice involves an uncertain outcome, and if uncertainty feels intolerable, every decision becomes paralyzing. They miss opportunities, because new possibilities always involve uncertainty, and if uncertainty is to be avoided, so is growth, change, and expansion. This is the cost of treating uncertainty as the enemy. Not just anxiety, but a life made smaller by the need for control. Breathe with me now. Let's practice being with uncertainty. In through your nose, notice that you don't know what the next moment will bring. Out through your mouth. Notice that you're okay right now, even without knowing what comes next. In again. Feel the uncertainty, the not knowing. Let it be present without needing to resolve it. Out again. Rest in this moment, which is all you actually have, all you've ever had. This is the practice, being present with what is, while allowing what might be to remain unknown. Let's explore a different perspective on uncertainty. One that doesn't come naturally to an anxious mind, but that changes everything when you can access it. Uncertainty is where possibility lives. If you knew exactly what would happen tomorrow, Nothing new could emerge. No unexpected joy. No surprising connection. No unforeseen opportunity. Your worst fears wouldn't come true, but neither would anything better than you imagined. The future would be fixed, predetermined, and while that might feel safe, it would also feel suffocating. Because humans need possibility. We need the sense that things can change, that growth is possible, that tomorrow might hold something we haven't yet conceived. And possibility requires uncertainty. They're inseparable. You can't have one without the other. So when you treat uncertainty as a threat, you're also, unknowingly, closing yourself off from possibility, from hope, from the openness that allows life to surprise you in beautiful ways. Here's a practice that helps shift your relationship with uncertainty, distinguishing between productive and unproductive worry. Productive worry leads to action. You're worried about money, so you create a budget. You're worried about your health, so you schedule a checkup. You're worried about a relationship, so you initiate a conversation. The worry serves a purpose. It motivates you to do something within your control, and then it can rest because the action has been taken. Unproductive worry just spins. It doesn't lead to action because there's no action to take. It's worry about things that haven't happened yet, might not happen, or are beyond your control. This kind of worry doesn't solve anything. It only creates suffering. So when worry arises, ask yourself, is there an action I can take right now? If yes, take it. Then let the worry go. If no, acknowledge that this is unproductive worry. It's your mind trying to control uncertainty through thinking, and gently redirect your attention to the present moment. This doesn't eliminate worry, but it helps you discern between worry that serves you and worry that only exhausts you. Let's talk about what it feels like to rest in uncertainty. At first, it feels uncomfortable, vulnerable, like you're not doing enough, like you should be preparing, planning, figuring things out. Your mind will generate reasons why you need to keep worrying. It will tell you stories about what could go wrong if you let go. This discomfort is normal. It's the feeling of releasing a strategy your mind has relied on for years, the strategy of trying to control the future through thought. But if you can sit with the discomfort, if you can breathe through it without immediately reaching for control, something shifts. The discomfort doesn't disappear, but it becomes more spacious, more tolerable. And beneath it, you begin to notice something else, a quiet trust. Not trust that everything will work out exactly as you hope, but trust that you can handle what comes, that you've survived uncertainty before, and you'll survive it again. This trust isn't built through thinking, it's built through experience, through repeatedly facing the unknown and discovering that you're more resilient than your worried mind believes. Here's a profound teaching from neuroscience. Your brain is better at responding to what is than predicting what might be. When something actually happens, when a challenge arrives, when a decision must be made, when circumstances shift, your brain is remarkably capable. It assesses the situation, it generates options, it responds. But when you're only imagining what might happen, your brain struggles. It doesn't have real data to work with. It can only generate possibilities, and in an anxious mind, those possibilities skew negative. So you exhaust yourself worrying about situations that your brain is actually quite capable of handling when they actually arise. This is the wisdom in letting go of prediction, not because you're giving up or being passive, but because you're trusting that when the future becomes the present, you'll know what to do. You'll have information you don't have now, context that doesn't exist yet, and your brain, which is designed to respond to reality, will guide you.
but it can't do that effectively when it's busy spinning through imagined scenarios that may never occur. So as you lie here tonight, consider this. What if you stopped treating uncertainty as something to eliminate? What if you recognized it as the space where your life actually unfolds? What if not knowing didn't mean you were unprepared, but simply meant you were alive in a future that hasn't been written yet? What if the constant worry, the endless planning, the desperate attempt to predict and control, what if all of that is less about the future and more about your discomfort with not knowing? And what if you could learn to be okay with not knowing? Not through pretending or forcing, but through gradually, patiently teaching yourself that uncertainty is safe, that you've lived with it your entire life and survived, that it's not the enemy. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's not a decision you make once. It's a practice, a gentle, repeated returning to the present moment, a softening of the grip on control. And slowly, as you practice, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice that the life you've been waiting for, the peace you've been preparing for, the moment you've been trying to reach, it's been here all along, waiting for you to arrive.
Chapter 11. The Gentle Return to Here. You've journeyed through the landscape of future-focused worry. You've met the prediction machine, the illusion of control, the loops that never end. Now we return, softer, wiser, with understanding of why your mind races forward and how you can gently, patiently call it back to now. We've traveled far together tonight, through the mind that lives tomorrow, through the brain's addiction to prediction, through the cost of letting the future steal the present. We've explored the illusion of control, how trying to hold certainty is like trying to hold water in your hands. We've watched the anxiety loop spin, feeding itself, growing stronger with each rotation. We've seen how your body believes the stories your mind tells about the future, responding to imagined threats as if they're real. We've honored the evolutionary gift of worry, the cautious vigilance that kept your ancestors alive. We've recognized what you're missing while your mind races forward, the sensory richness, the connection, the peace that exists only in the present moment. We've learned how to teach your brain to let go, gently, redirecting attention again and again until new pathways form. And we've explored the wisdom in uncertainty, the possibility that not knowing might not be a threat, but a gift. Now it's time to return, to come back to this moment, to this breath, to the only time that truly exists, now. Let's breathe together one more time, slowly, softly. In through your nose, feel the air enter, cool and gentle. Out through your mouth, feel the release, the letting go. Notice where you are right now, the weight of your body, the temperature of the air, the sounds around you, near or distant. You are here. Not in tomorrow's worries, not in yesterday's regrets, just here in this single, simple moment. And that is enough. It always has been. Here's what you've learned tonight. Your worry about the future is not a character flaw. It's a pattern your brain learned. It learned it through evolution, through millions of years of ancestors who survived because they anticipated danger. It learned it through experience, through times when worry felt protective, when vigilance felt necessary, when the future genuinely felt threatening. And it learned it through repetition, through thousands of times when your mind raced forward and you followed, strengthening the neural pathways that make future-focused thinking automatic. Understanding this changes everything, because patterns that are learned can be unlearned, habits can be changed, neural pathways can be rewired. Not instantly,
not through force, but through gentle, patient, repeated practice. Let's talk about what this practice looks like in your daily life. In the morning, before your mind begins spinning through the day ahead, take 3 conscious breaths. Notice your body. Notice the present moment. Start your day here, not in the future. Throughout the day, when you notice worry beginning, pause. Name it. This is worry. This is my mind predicting the future. Then gently redirect. But right now, I'm here, and right now, I'm okay. In difficult moments, when anxiety rises and the future feels overwhelming, ground yourself in sensation. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Or simply notice your breath, your feet on the ground, your hands resting wherever they rest. In the evening, as you prepare for sleep, release the day, release tomorrow. Bring your attention to the present moment, to the safety of this bed, this darkness, this time of rest. And when the worry returns, because it will return many times, don't judge yourself. Don't see it as failure. Simply notice, redirect, and begin again. Each time you do this, you're teaching, you're rewiring, you're creating new pathways while allowing old ones to fade.
Here's what this practice is not. It's not about never thinking about the future. Planning is necessary. Preparation is valuable. The goal is not to eliminate future thinking, but to make it voluntary rather than compulsive. It's not about positive thinking or forced optimism. You're not replacing worried thoughts with happy thoughts. You're stepping out of thought entirely and returning to direct experience. It's not about spiritual enlightenment. This is practical, neurological work. You're training your attention, strengthening certain neural networks, teaching your nervous system that the present moment is safe. It's not a cure that eliminates anxiety forever, but it is a practice that changes your relationship with anxiety, that gives you agency, that reminds you that you're not powerless against the worry loop. Breathe with me again. Let's practice returning, right now. In through your nose. Where is your mind? Is it here, or has it wandered to tomorrow? Out through your mouth. Gently call it back. Come home. It's safe here. We can rest now. In again. Notice sensation, the coolness of air, the movement of your chest. Out again. This is where your life is, not in the future you're imagining, but here, in this breath, in this body, in this moment. There's something profound that happens when you practice this consistently. At first, returning to the present feels effortful, like you're constantly pulling your attention back from the future, over and over, exhaustingly. But gradually, something shifts. The present moment begins to feel less like a place you have to force yourself into, and more like a place you naturally rest. The future still calls, worries still arise, but they don't have the same pull. They don't consume you the way they once did. You notice them, you acknowledge them, and then you return to now. Not because you have to, but because this is where peace lives. This is where you can actually be alive. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks, months, sometimes years of gentle practice, but it does happen. Because your brain is capable of change. Your nervous system can learn safety, and the patterns that have held you captive can gradually, patiently release their grip. So as we close this journey together, I want you to know this. You are not broken. Your tendency to worry about the future makes perfect sense given your evolutionary history, your life experiences, and the way your brain has been trained. You are not powerless. You have the ability to notice worry, to redirect attention, to teach your brain new patterns. Change is possible, and it begins right now, in this moment. You are not alone. Millions of people struggle with constant worry about the future. It's one of the most common forms of suffering,
and there is wisdom, compassion, and science to guide you through it. You don't have to do this perfectly. There will be days when worry dominates, when the future feels too threatening to ignore, when returning to the present feels impossible. On those days, be gentle with yourself. The practice is not about perfection, it's about persistence. And most importantly, the present moment is always here waiting for you. No matter how far your mind has traveled into the future, no matter how lost you feel in worry, you can always return with a single breath, with one moment of noticing, with the gentle recognition, I'm here, right now. And that's enough. If this journey has brought you understanding, if these words have helped ease your worry, even slightly, please stay connected with Soft Light Theory. Subscribe to this channel for more episodes in our series, Emotional Healing and Neuroscience, Gentle Ways to Rewire Your Mind. Like this video if it resonated with you. Share it with someone whose mind races into tomorrow. And leave a comment. Tell us where you're listening from, what time it is, and know that you're not alone in this. More episodes are coming, more gentle explorations of how your mind works, why you feel what you feel, and how healing happens. Until next time, may you find your way back to the present moment again and again. May you trust in your resilience, and may you know deeply that you don't need to control the future to be okay right now. Good night, and thank you for trusting me with your worries and your precious attention.